Greetings to everyone in YouTube land on the stream. This is the Apollo 14 expedition. This is Waypoint 6 Kittyhawk, and we're about to test a sort of simulation of the Apollo 14 climb to Cone Crater. And I think we're ready to get going now. So a quick look at everyone around. The SRV is probably not necessary, but who knows what will happen later today. Okay, so it's bearing of 240 degrees approximately. And shall we start?
All right.
There's no countdown. Let's just like start moving and see what we can do. The battery, I think, will be the first thing to give out, though.
Remember, you've got 3 charges of energy cells.
Yeah.
So
make sure before you run out that you've worked out what key binding actually charges you.
Yeah, it's a kind of crucial one, that isn't it?
I
That's
believe
what I
the
was doing
default is
earlier.
7, if you haven't changed it.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. I've actually doubled up the button for walking, running, because it's like it's hard to hold the same button down for too long otherwise, so I can switch my hands over at least.
Glad you said that. I just recalled I have an auto run key.
Oh, that's nice. I do technically have an auto fire button, but it's like it's too set up for, like, you know, firing guns. I tried the other day, see if I could get it to walk or run, but it doesn't. It just makes you kind of stutter forwards. It's slightly strange. See if I can get to external cam, and it should probably... Oh, that's cool. There's like a whole bunch of people behind. In different angles.
Our spacesuits are probably, in all fairness, a lot easier to walk in or run in than the Apollo ones.
Oh yeah, they have to be.
I was a little disappointed. I was looking to setting up my suit, and I was trying to recreate more of an Apollo era suit, and there's just not very good options for it.
actually, there's one very good option, but you have to buy it.
Yeah,
Well, I was even looking at the ARC stuff. I couldn't find anything that I thought was terribly appropriate. Did I miss one?
my alt has quite a good one.
I forget what it's called, but I'll show you later. Heck, I should have done that myself. But I've got the options. They look very much more like a traditional spacesuit. Even to the point of having a 50s style bubble helmet.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which I don't particularly care for myself. I usually just use the Maverick helmet.
I was going to say, I think Frontier might actually get a lot of business if they actually made a special edition Apollo suit that obviously looked like the Apollo Era 1. But compared to these, it would look like a Michelin man. These are quite like skin tight sort of suits.
Kind of would.
Looking back, I was only looking at the Artemis options. I didn't think to look at the Dominator or Maverick, so I may have just missed it based on that.
No,
you can
get it for Artemis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my alt
There's a
is
type
more
of reflective suit that's only available as a flight suit, but the other options like the the one I'm wearing right now, you can apply that to a Maverick suit or Artemis, or I guess you could apply it to a Dominator, but why would you want to?
Yeah, you can.
You
can apply almost anything to almost anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, for a moment to go to Frontier store.
Heck, you can even make an Artemis suit look like a flight suit with the options.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, you can't recreate the skin type part of it, but the coats, the pants, the boots, and all that, yeah, you can.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Apollo astronauts didn't actually have little jetpacks either, so that's one advantage we have. It's a boulder, just go over it, you know.
Oh, imagine the fun they would have had with that.
Oh my, they've probably got into orbit if they'd have done that.
Yes,
a bunch of test pilots with the testosterone. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
They would have tried.
Oh, they certainly would.
I have quite a long burn on this. I can get quite pretty high.
Do you
But you get, like,
modify?
extended-
Have you modified the suit at all, Mac? Have you
Yeah.
got longer? Oh, you've got longer burn then. Okay, that's cool. I think this
Yeah,
is
I
like
just-
not that great a suit. This is kind of like basic. I think if I have a slight modification somewhere.
I've got
just-
mine
I
up
just
to
pushed-
level 4, but no mods.
Right.
Yeah, I've got no useful mods. I've got quiet footsteps.
Yeah.
Oh, I've
which is-
got that on my missioning suit, so I can.
I've got
I
enhanced
can-
running endurance on my Artemis.
Oh, that's
3.
nice.
I
Yeah.
do, yeah.
I
That's
think
good.
because I like
It-
bought Odyssey quite early on, I think I got some kind of special suit. I can't remember if it's this or one of the other ones I got upgraded, but I'll have to check with that.
it is, yeah. It
Only
is
pick
nice
it up-
being able to creep up on the stratum tectonic unheard.
Yeah.
I just posted in images the vintage Intrepid pack, which is I think
That's the
that
one.
was-
That's
Yeah.
the one. I was trying to remember. There's also a reflective Intrepid, or a variation of it now.
Mhm.
Also, there's a type of suit that, when I saw it, I immediately thought, oh, they're trying to give people the Quarian look from Mass Effect series,
It could have been
with
the
the
case.
totally reflective faceplate and all.
Yeah, the
that or
JBL sort of post is in images is like the close I think we're going to get to like 20th century suits. Yeah.
It's what it really looks like is mid 20th century science fiction covers.
Yeah, that is actually a better description, isn't it? Where did you find that, JBL?
I just cut that from the Frontier Store website.
Okay, so they actually do
20.
sell this as a pack. That's cool.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do. Yeah, I have it for my alt.
Oh, that's nice.
Might have to pick that up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I
shit.
bought those. I
Shit,
bought those
awesome.
options, but I didn't think of putting them together for this
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
Before this trip, I decided what's the most Apollo-looking suit I could find, and I couldn't really find one that was that close, so I just went with this.
Yeah, I stripped mine back to the closest thing to white I could get and called it a good day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My lunar module has just left the surface.
I think you were joking earlier, JBL, about what happened to the Shepard and Mitchell if their lunar module had actually like departed without them.
Hey, that's our ride.
Yeah, I was going to say that would have been a bit surprising, and yeah,
Really? We
Wouldn't
only
have
come
been-
2 kilometres.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, hold
We've
on.
already gone further than the Apollo 14 people in terms of climbing,
see.
anyway. But it's relatively
Most
speaking,
of the
isn't
ships
it?
are still there.
I was looking through this the other day for the Lunar
Yeah, I
Surface
think I'm ahead
Journal.
of you.
From like NASA's history, trying to work out how long the climb to Cone was, and I think it
Oh,
was
yeah.
about something like an hour 20, an hour 30, something like that, to the highest point where they actually did some sampling,
Okay.
because obviously they didn't
Okay,
actually
this-
make it all the
yeah.
way to the actual crater itself.
This is a good point to where I am. You're just catching up to me. It's a good point to stand and watch all the ships dismiss.
Okay, we can stop for a second.
They need to keep on backing off.
Yeah,
but-
just keep running backwards.
Whoa, who's that?
Oh, there goes
Oh,
one.
there goes a ship.
Yeah.
That's the Mamba.
Was that Huskier? Oh, he's probably miles ahead.
Yeah.
No,
No, he's going to be about where we are.
The rest of them should dismiss about now, I would have thought. So
I'm still
Yeah.
reading 1.7 on mine, so
okay, mine's at 2.1, so mine should be dismissing about now.
I'm in the external camera at the moment. I'm worried that I'm going to miss the low battery.
Yeah, I can't
battery
see my
wall.
ship dismiss unless it's already gone.
I just hit 20% on mine, but I left at 47%.
I'm still at 74.
I'm at
I'm
57.
on 69, having
Okay.
recharged very shortly before heading off.
Yeah, I was fully charged when we left.
I'm at 77, but I've got an extended battery on mine.
Yeah, I think my ship might
goes
have
one.
already gone, but yeah.
There goes another one.
I think that one's yours.
The blue thrust. Yep, gotta be mine.
I was parked next to you. I'm watching for mine.
I can see mine's going. Yeah. An ED Discovery is telling me as well.
I might.
I also get the impression this surface around here is kind of a lot smoother than the Apollo 14 guys would have faced. There are a lot more boulders for them as well. I mean, they've got boulders, but they're comparatively sparse and spread out.
Yeah. I have to assume the soles of our boots must have some kind of spiky, grippy thing to them to hold onto this ice.
Some kind of adhesive, yeah.
Yeah.
You probably don't need it. I mean, the temperature here is so low that ice is not going to melt and regelate underneath our feet.
Oh.
Especially since our suits are not going to be transmitting very much heat from the feet.
No.
2A is definitely rising, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Almost clear of the horizon.
Casting a shadow.
And it's not as a result of the 3 kilometers that we've travelled.
Yeah.
No.
Any more ships going up? Don't see any right now.
I don't think there's any left.
Yeah, mine's gone, and we were on the kind of this edge of the circle.
Yeah. It looks spectacular, that moon, doesn't it? It really does.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think in images yesterday, I put the image where you've sort of got the sort of gas giant and then the two moons together as they sort of move around, and it's quite an extraordinary place, this one.
Yeah, it's nice if you also get the Inquisition carrier in the foreground of the shot, which I couldn't because I can't take anything on external
A couple
camera.
of people that are not on mic are saying their ships decided to dive underground.
Oh no, that's not good. I was going to say that's quite a bug. You're going to have to just relog, I think, in that case, and it should send you back to orbit.
Well, who knows? Maybe the ships don't get destroyed. Maybe they just despawn at a certain point, and then when you call them back, they'll just come back from the sky.
It's amazing how many bugs there are still in this game, despite the fact it's been around for about a decade now.
Hey, look at the bright side. At least it's not Star Citizen.
Yes. Oh my God. It's like I was having a conversation with someone the other week about Star Citizen. And to be fair, they weren't one of these people who were like defend Star Citizen to the death kind of person. They were at least willing to admit it's like, yeah, it does kind of seem quite depressing frequently. As in, like, this game kickstarted at the same time as Elite Dangerous did. But look what happened,
The same group of people that defend
really
the adder.
I really do hope that Star Citizen actually does finally reach a point of actual official release. I'd really like to see that game do well, but and what I've seen of it is impressive.
Yeah.
It's not finished.
Yeah, again, it's like when you get some people who get very defensive about it, they just assume that any criticisms of Star Citizen that you hate the game. It's like, no, I don't hate it. I've never played it. And it's like when it's in beta test mode or close to actual release, I'll evaluate it then when there's something to evaluate. I don't want to like play a sort of alpha or like low grade beta at this point. It's like when it's finished, I'll be happily take a look into it and see what's what. I have an open mind in that regard, but especially if you bet a lot of money, and you spend a lot of money very easily on Star Citizen. It's a very expensive thing to invest in.
Yeah, just be careful if you're defending Star Citizen not to get caught up in the sunk cost fallacy, yeah?
Yeah.
Isn't it hideously expensive as well?
Oh yeah, I think like hundreds of dollars per
Depends on what
ship.
you buy, but yes, it can be.
Yeah, I remember back when Colonia was like new, and they just put the first ground station in the Colonia system. There wasn't the rest of all the other systems yet.
Yeah.
and we were it was after the. Can't remember which. It was after one of the convoys out there, and there was like a Colonia event. So they used to run events quite regularly in Colonia, and we had this SRV race event in this new base. And we had other things around that base as well. There's a really good hill that we used for gravity limbo, which was quite good fun. And I remember everyone was talking about, oh yeah, when Star Citizen hits release next year. And I was saying, if Star Citizen hits release next year, I'll eat a shoe.
This was like 2016 as well.
I was in absolutely no danger of eating a shoe.
Yeah. I think now you're probably not much danger eating a shoe either if you said the same thing. And at this rate, it'll be, 2030 by the time the actual game comes out, at least.
By that point, maybe they'll have gone full VR and immersive, cockpit with a bubble and et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of the problem that's dragging it out is the development team seems to be trying to keep pace with the improvements in technology.
Yeah.
Which I respect the ability that'll give the game, but finish it and then update it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
the problem is...
basically a case of, perfection is the enemy of the good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the problem is they've got ooh shiny syndrome. They have like this whole thing, because I remember the whole thing, they're doing this thing where you had this virtual reality face and it would read your facial expression and put it on your character and all that kind of stuff.
Out there, yeah.
But it's like, I think if they hadn't got all the money they had got, if it stopped at the Kickstarter, it'd have been like Elite. They'd have had a game they'd have released, and it would have probably continued over the years after a solid release. The trouble is they got too much money, which meant the scope got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And the trouble with software is it doesn't scale linearly. The money is scaling linearly, but the complexity is scaling exponentially.
Yeah.
So the more money they got, the further away from any release they got.
Yeah.
Just because they kept adding all these extra features.
As you say, they could have been sensible and put an early version out that wasn't as sophisticated, and then built like a second generation game. It's kind of almost like what Elite's tried to do, more or less.
I think it's you know what that kind of reminds me of? Kind of reminds me of the way that George Lucas approached the prequels, because he had all this nifty new tech he just couldn't resist playing with, but then he kind of didn't allow anybody else to tell him no, and we got what we got. I mean, the prequels are still pretty good.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, but they're certainly better than the Disney sequels.
If you jump now, you can see daylight underneath 2A.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's the ring that you can see, that little line. Yeah, cool.
I think it's if you think about it, there's like there are times when too much money, is not a good thing.
Yeah.
If you basically if you limit yourself to a budget, you find creative ways around it. I mean, Wrath of Khan had like a $15 million budget as opposed to the first movie, which had, all the money, and yet it's a better film.
Yeah, sure.
Well, just look at Lord of the Rings. I mean, they didn't... When they had Gandalf and Bilbo in the same scene, very little of that was CGI. They used forced perspective and camera placement to make him look huge.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, also,
and
even like the early Star Wars films.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And one of the things that made Peter Jackson kind of took him aback was Ian McKellen was kind of like about midway through filming of the first film, Ian was getting depressed because he was off on his own in this room without anybody there, and he's trying to act against a green screen and everything, and in order to put him with the dwarves and the Hobbit in the house and all that, and he's like going, Peter, I can't do this, He's like, oh, wait a minute, okay. and he, came to him that maybe all this CGI is maybe not that great of an idea.
You hear a lot of that now. I know Isaacs from the Harry Potter set. He's come out pretty recently and talked about how boring it was to actually film those movies because of the amount of CG work they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in recent
If you've
years,
got something there to actually act to, even if it's just a golf ball on a stick.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's generally what they had for getting the eye line.
it is true.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say the recent Star Wars series, including Andor and things, I think they've actually used, apart from like real world sets, as much as possible. But when you haven't got that, instead of using just green or blue screens, they've actually gone for this sort of like realistic background. It's like a sort of projection, but it's a very high resolution one, so that they can act as like people, obviously, in front of this, and so it can be as real as possible. As you say, they have the other actors to play off at least. I can see a few people in the distance, usually with the little.
If I boost up, can you see me?
Well, I've just gone over a horizon, so I can't see anybody.
Yeah, I see
just
people in the
max
distance.
boosted. I can see a big old string of people.
I can see a pixel way back.
Right, one suit boost done.
I'm just trying to check and see if I'm still on the right track.
So how many kilometers have we done so far? I don't know, about 6 or 7 maybe.
I can plug it
I
into
can use
guidance.
Edison to tell you.
Okay.
6 kilometers.
Okay, not too far off then. So we're about
Okay.
halfway-ish.
I
Yeah.
was too busy taking screenshots. I think I'm at the back now.
Yeah.
I'm waiting until my battery gets down to the last 10% before charging.
Oh, fair enough.
Oh, shit.
I'm at 38% at this point. No worries,
Yeah.
I've got 3 energy cells.
I'm on
I've
34.
got 2 cells left. I let mine get to 7 before the first use, so I'm down to 77 again.
So Edison can determine the on-foot latitude and longitude, can it?
Cool.
Edison tracks your position the whole time.
Huh.
And since I fed our landing zone into Edison, all I do is turn it on, and it tells me how far I am from our landing zone.
Oh, I
nice.
see. Yeah, of course. I mean, I just written this software in voice attack to measure distances. That's how I worked out that it was 13.5 kilometers altogether. But unfortunately, the latitude and longitude you can get from into voice attack from Eddie is only the ship's position or the SRV's position. You don't get the on-foot location.
ED Copilot has a similar feature where you can enter target coordinates and it'll guide you in and give you the current Latin long.
Oh yeah, yes, I can. Yeah, I've got that as well, but I would have to put in the destination coordinates for that, which I didn't do.
Well, if you make your
I'm
source
currently
the
using,
destination,
Sorry, go ahead.
because if you just make your source
Yeah.
your destination, and it will tell you what you have to do to get back to your source.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm currently using SRV survey,
Okay.
and I set a point at the landing spot at the lat long, so it's pointed back, back where it says 5.79 kilometers that direction.
Wow. So not quite halfway.
You know, I was wondering something the other day. This is probably the crowd to ask. Is anybody aware of a third-party tool of any kind that will let you, like, plot for survey around your current location, like, say, every star within 50 light years?
Well, you can't do every star because the tools can only go on what's known to EDDN. But there's EDJP is a great tool for surveying a voxel.
Okay.
It will. What you can do is you put in a system whose voxel you want to survey, and tell it to just generate every system in that voxel in turn. You can then plot to the the next system, and it will tell you whether EDSM already knows about that system. So you can,
Yeah.
and you can get it in fact to skip systems that EDSM already knows about automatically.
Yeah, I was
Get it?
using Observatory, and the way it routes you to mappable planets that have met your threshold in, the proper order, so you're not traveling further than necessary. I wondered if there was a galactic side of that, because I'd like to use it. I'll try that.
Getador mentioned EDJP can do voxel survey.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is what I just said.
I will have to
Nice.
give that a go.
Nice.
I didn't know if they were referencing the exact same thing or not.
Yeah, that was the tool I was talking about. We used it a lot on the Children of the Core expedition, where we were trying to do reasonably exhaustive surveys, although doing an exhaustive survey of a voxel near the core, which has 10,000 stars, is a challenge.
Ooh.
It's EDJP. Yeah, I think I
That
remember
is
hearing
exactly
about
what I
that,
wanted
yeah.
it for.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Here's the main group.
Kit actually almost single-handedly surveyed all of the stars in the DMAS voxel that eventually ended up being our destination settlement.
Yeah, that was something over 9,000
Yeah.
systems.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
I think I got about 200 of them, but
I feel like
you
I have
got,
some
you
catching
got
up to
almost
do
all
now.
the rest.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Kit's numbers of original discovered, first discovered systems are like beyond most mortal people's reach, to be honest.
Apart from Elitnil.
Yeah, and also Chicky as well. They're like the sort of
Okay.
OGs of this.
Oh, and don't forget Commander Validating.
To be fair, people on this expedition, there's a few people here in the top 100. I think JBL's in the top 20, as far as I remember.
Top 25 anyway.
Cool. Yeah, I'm somewhere near like the 90s at this point. I think Gedador is about in the 40s. Yeah, they'll correct me if I'm wrong about that, but they're somewhere quite high up as well. But yeah, there's a few people who have got this amazing run of first discovers. But yeah, Kit is definitely the sort of the leader and continues to add to it. I don't think Jiggy plays anymore, as far as I'm aware. Who's like number 2?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Jackie Silver was out in the lead for a long time, and then she gave up the game for about 3 years. She's back in now and discovering a few.
Yeah.
But that's my problem. I think I'd quite like to get up to 250,000 systems discovered, but do I really want to bother?
Yeah, there's no point in forcing it. All these things, it's like you should do it as part of something, like as you say, like a survey or an expedition. You shouldn't force yourself just for the numbers' sake, because it's the easiest way to get burnt out on any game.
Quarter of a million out of 400 billion.
My understanding, Kit, is that every time you try to stop, rather as in a Godfather, just when you think you're out, your wife pushes you back in.
That's right. Yes, that's about it.
Yeah, but most people's partners, spouses or whatever, are usually trying to pull them back into real life, and I think, Kit is unusually an understanding partner who actually wants them to play the game. It's like, well, that's great.
I don't know. I got married on the Minerva Centaurus expedition for real.
Oh well, but yeah, there's so it's such a
Honestly,
huge galaxy.
That's what I was doing. And then we kind of eloped to Gretna Green halfway through it. And,
Fair enough, yeah.
I still have the romantic photographs of my Imperial cutter and on my DASP on some dark planet somewhere.
That is quite the destination wedding.
I was just having an interesting thought. Is that since obviously On Foot had been introduced to the game, there's got to have been some couple who's probably got married in game, done a little thing on a carrier or a station or something. Obviously, probably done it in real life as well. But it's just like that's probably been a thing at some point.
Do you remember Second Life?
Yep.
That kind of thing went on Second Life all the time.
Yeah. So I didn't play it that much. I got an account and then kind of gave up very quickly. But
yeah, because I found this kind of neat area where because it was all the rage that people were doing these things like virtual music gigs, and you get these bands playing and stuff. There was like this virtual Dublin thing, I used to go and do.
Almost time for a battery pack here.
I've
12%.
just
I was going to say, what's my?
I've just
battery
used
pack
one.
doing? Oh, I'm down to 15%, so
Mm.
I've still got a ways to go.
I was
Yeah.
about to call for a battery check.
The trouble is,
I'm
I'll
at
now forget because
12%. I'm gonna pop the battery at 10.
Oh, I
I'm
think I'm
doing
gonna wait
because
till
I'm in
3.
VR. I have to do all the on-foot stuff in third-person mode. Otherwise,
Mm.
it's just a flat screen. So I can't. I have to keep just dipping back in just to check.
Sure.
And the trouble is, I might forget, and then all of a sudden, I'll fall in a heap on the ground dead.
I've
Is
given
my
thought to
estimate.
trying that, but I think I'll wait until I've burn out a bit on Exobio before I try the VR thing.
Yeah.
Well, you can actually wait until your battery is at 0%, and that's the point your oxygen starts dropping.
Interesting. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually have
Oh,
quite a
right.
And
while.
you get these horrible gasping. I don't know whether you've ever been to that stage where you
Yeah.
drown.
Yeah.
You get these. It's really quite nasty. You get these horrible gasping.
Yeah.
noises coming out of there.
It's almost a bit too
I'll have to
realistic
let
at
it go
that
now
point.
just to try.
Yeah. Actually, as ones I was trying on my alt account to actually like see how quickly the person would die, and it takes a while actually, much longer than you think it does. Because I was thinking that they'll die quite quickly. They'll appear back on my ship, and then I can get on with the game. But it's just like, isn't there some kind of self-destruct option on foot? But there isn't, as far as I'm aware.
No.
So you just have to wait for the person on foot. The only alternative is that you could log out and log back into for Horizons 4.0. But that'll take you into orbit, though, if you do that. So, yeah.
That's interesting. That bit ahead looks like it's terraced.
Sorry, where are you
Mhm.
looking?
Yeah, I
if,
see that.
if you look directly ahead where we're all sort of
Yeah.
running in, the direction we're running in,
Yeah.
we drop down into a bit of a plain, and then up to the
Mhm.
next hill, it's like terraced.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does appear to be the case.
Yeah. Interesting. Changing terrain, though. If you had a body like that was that close in orbit, and you could probably have interesting gravitational effects. I mean, if
Well, I don't know what the rush limit is for these.
Yeah, I was
that's
thinking
well
as I was
within the
flying
rush
here,
limit.
I was
They would
thinking-
rip themselves apart. Probably.
I was
Yeah.
thinking about Rush's limit here,
yeah,
but
Yeah.
eventually, especially on the facing sides, there'd be a noticeable reduction in the gravity.
I
yeah.
wonder what long-term effect that would have on a life form.
Hmm.
'Cause you think we spend our whole lives glued to the earth and being pulled in one direction. Imagine if, for 12 hours of the day, you were progressively getting lighter, as it were.
Oh
and then
yeah,
heavier again.
Hmm.
that would be strange.
Wonder what that would over time. I wonder what that would do to the anatomy over time.
I thought they'd be quite flexible, otherwise they'd be destroyed.
Mm.
Huh. Like a very, very slow, like a very slow-mo spaghettification.
But I'm surprised this planet
Well,
doesn't have a load of geosites, because normally
Yeah.
when you've got two close orbiting planets, you get a ton of geosites on them.
Yeah,
know.
it can happen.
Yeah.
That's why I was
Um,
saying earlier, too bad this thing doesn't have, too bad neither one of these bodies appear to have active geysers, because you could,
Yeah.
There were two geological signals, weren't there? But I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what
Yeah.
they are.
Not sure
the
what they
trick,
were.
of course, would be finding a geyser that's on the side facing the other moon.
Mhm.
Get an SRV in there and see if you could transit.
Yeah.
Oh, screw the SRV. You could do it in a spacesuit. You can actually get a lot.
But I think you'd have a much greater chance of dying when you landed.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
no
it'll
risk,
be
no
worth it.
reward.
It'll be
Yeah,
worth it.
no pain, no gain.
That's
Yeah.
it.
You
Yeah.
can get a lot higher without an SRV.
Yeah.
yeah, it's not the fall that kills you.
True. True.
It's the geyser.
Yeah.
It's the fault. It's that sudden stop at the end.
Mhm.
Oh, so you have to come down onto a geyser to slow you down.
Oh,
Geyser
that'd be a neat
braking.
trick.
In low gravity, I've come down from some pretty enormous heights and survived. You just put your shields on right before the end and keep on using your jetpack to slow you down a bit.
I suppose so. Yeah.
The shot that I put in images a little while back about the old geezer meeting an old geezer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I reckon I was at least 25 kilometers above the ground when I took that.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
wow.
was a very, very long way up.
That's actually quite
And-
impressive.
Yeah. I've done more than that.
I want to do that with the ED Copilot guidance computer now, because it also gives you altitude. That would be
Hello,
interesting.
Commander Yo.
Hmm.
Just passed.
And I survived that one. I lost all of my shield and 40% health, and that was
Okay.
fine.
I like the way when you do that, you get the sort of surfing posture. If you look at yourself in
Yeah.
external camera, it's like you're surfing.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like the end of Dark Star.
What a way to go.
Yeah.
So the third star I was using for navigation is just about to dip below the horizon. There were 3 stars on a heading of 240, and the top
I'm far
one
enough.
just disappeared.
I'm
I
navigating
see what
by
you're talking
following
about.
everybody else.
Fortunately, there's a star above that one in almost the same line.
A much fainter one. Yeah.
Hmm.
Right.
I got one very bright one still on bearing 245 or thereabouts.
Yeah.
And what I'm looking at is about 242, 243.
Oh, yeah, that's probably the one.
So
Yeah,
is
I
this
think
the
that's
rim of the crater coming up, or just a false?
From
I guess.
memory, I think this actually might be the crater rim with the terraces before it.
It should
Oh, I
be.
guess we'll find out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
because we've been going for a while now.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
9
this might be
kilometers
it.
away from the start now.
But yeah, as
That
always
might
with
be
these
back
things,
to
it's like
back.
it looks further away than it really is. Guess it always says they need a break. Okay, fair enough.
In game or out?
Out
Yes,
by the
yeah,
looks.
It's supposed to have recirculation going on in the
Discord.
suit.
Yeah, yeah. Wasn't it, I think, in the original Mercury era and Gemini suits, because it was all pure oxygen, that if you actually relieved yourself, before they had like an ability to do this in the suit, they reckon it would actually just evaporate like naturally anyway. So I think it was like the low pressure and the air conditioning sort of made it evaporate rather quicker than you would expect.
Well, of course, there. I believe it was Al Shepard himself who had to relieve himself right before his Mercury.
You are
flight.
right about that. Exactly. What a way to
And he was like, yeah, and he's like, well, I'm a wetback now.
Yeah. I mean, imagine that. It's just like they had actually not worked out a procedure yet for doing this. It's like, did you think about this? Like having a guy in a capsule for hours and hours and hours before you send him into space, that they might need to relieve themselves at some point, you know?
Well, funny thing is, apparently Al Shepard's favorite bit that he liked to do was his own impression of Jose Jimenez, the reluctant astronaut.
Oh yeah.
And,
I've seen that.
but he was like, they kept on dithering a bit for just a little bit after he'd had to relieve himself, and he like got on the horn, and it's like, finally got into full commander mode. It's like, look, I'm cooler than you guys are right now. Let's light this freaking candle.
Yeah. To light this candle has been used many times, I think, for different sorts of expeditions and events. It's like, let's get going. Let's just do this thing now.
Yeah.
God, it must be terrible to have diarrhea in space.
Oh, that sounds like the
Oh.
worst. Yeah.
Ooh, I don't want to think about that.
Allegedly, I think it was actually not allegedly, this is like in the journal, so it's true. In Apollo 8, I think Borman actually had it coming from both ends, like on the first, like in the lunar coast, like when they were going to the moon, and they had to clear it up pretty quickly because in 0G, it's gonna get bad really, really fast. It must have smelled really bad for a long time. They had no lunar module either. There was just them in the command module, and that was it,
Yeah, no
Pretty small
escaping
space.
that.
No escaping that at all. Yeah.
Luckily, you'd probably be nose blind to it within the hour.
Probably.
Yeah, I think the thing they finally figured out was that the reason why it hadn't been happening in Mercury and Gemini was that there wasn't any room to move.
Yeah.
So they really weren't moving their heads and all, and it was only when they had the room to move in the relatively roomy Apollo capsule that, you know, the whole inner ear thing came into play.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, Mercury was like no space at all. Gemini was literally like the front of a 2-seater sports car, and okay, in 0G that makes slightly more room, but it's not much room. You can wiggle a bit, and that's about it. You know, wiggling is the most you can do. And you can float above your couch slightly in 0G, but that's as much comfort as you're ever going to get.
Yeah. But yeah, in Apollo, you could actually, one guy could be aligned lengthwise in the area of the astronavigation right in front of the tunnel that goes up to the lunar module, and another guy could be stretched out sideways in behind the bunks, and then another guy could be stretched out in a bunk.
Yeah.
And nobody has to, like, you know, crisscross each other or bump into each other while they're sleeping.
Exactly. They reckon it was quite good to actually wedge yourself in at the bottom of it. And also, the unfortunate part is that's where the loo is too. So, yeah, as long as everything's clean, and it might not be so bad.
Speaking of Apollo 12, I think it was Pete Conrad when somebody asked him the perennial question, how do you go to the bathroom in space? He goes, take a can of pork and beans, tape it to your butt, the small can.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, even with the actual, like, loo that they had on Apollo, it's like, it can't have been much fun, because, you know, these were not designed for comfort, these missions. They were designed to be entirely functional. And you're spending, like, 11 days in this environment, especially the command module pilot, who was always going to be in space at all times. He never got to land. Only the other two did. So, yeah, it must have been. Having said that, he'd had a few days to himself, so, you know, it might not have been too bad.
I think, speaking, again, back to Apollo 12, but they were about to enter the command module when they'd returned, and what's his name?
Dick Gordon.
I can't remember. Thank you. Dick Gordon took one look at him and said, no. Closed the hatch and said, strip. You're not getting all that crap into my nice, clean command module. And they're like going, you serious?
It's a fair point.
Yes, I am. because they looked like a couple of pig pens.
Yeah. Funnily enough, for this presentation, when we get into orbit, I do actually have some video footage from Apollo 14 that's actually from, I think it's actually shot on the return leg when they've ditched the lunar module and they're coming back and they're just in the command module. But you can tell that at the beginning of it, that Shepard and Mitchell have not too far in the past been on the lunar surface, because their faces are kind of grubby. And I think they've changed into the flight suits, but their faces still haven't been cleaned or anything. So yeah, you can tell. Also, they're sort of like shaking hands and congratulating each other. So you can tell that they've only recently just docked, and they're probably just about to, like, you know, ditch the LEM and stuff. So yeah, it's an interesting piece there.
Yeah. I think we're almost to the top here.
Yeah, we're getting close.
I was about to. No, you're not.
Oh.
Oh, really?
I was about to confirm that that's a false horizon. You got the change of terrain where it gets rocky and a bit rougher. You get over that, and then there's. But I think there's. I suspect the next one is the real horizon.
Okay.
Unless the crater is extraordinarily shallow and I'm already in it, but I don't think so.
It's a pretty big
pretty
crater.
deep.
It's a big crater, this one. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we are
But,
getting these rocks that are probably not too unlike the rocks they had to navigate on Apollo 14.
I was going to say, we're in the terrain now. This simulates it very well. I think that all the evidence shows Apollo 14 was really like, as you say, there's, you're not 100% sure that what you're looking at is actually where you think you are. Or is this the crater? Is this like a false sort of dawn? You know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Of course, we have the advantage of our little rocket packs.
Yeah, that gives you some perspective, exactly. Not much, but a little bit of a lift at least.
Yeah.
This feels as if it might be the top where I'm going now. It's got very icy again.
I'm at 8%. I guess I'm about to hear what this gasping fish sound is.
You're gonna go down and then hit the energy cell.
Yep, I'm curious.
Okay. Okay.
I went all the way down to 1%, but didn't let it go to 0, so yeah, charge.
Chicken.
I mean, it is quite distressing.
It's a bit too realistic almost, to be fair. Yeah, it is quite
Especially
eerie.
when you're doing it on a surface mission and you've just had to run away a
Oh,
lot
hallelujah!
because the entire base is shooting at you.
I have discovered Cone Crater.
Yay.
Ah, yay.
12 kilometers.
I was on a one of those standard combat missions in the settlements,
Yeah.
and we lost. But I had actually run outside the settlement, seeing the way which way the wind, metaphorically, was blowing, and so they kept on coming after me, and I kept on dodging them, and I hid behind a rock. Popped an energy cell, and I actually called an Apex shuttle, and I was like down to like 10% of battery when I finally boarded. I actually got my ass out of that without dying.
Cool.
I was rather proud of myself.
Jolly good.
3%.
I can't even complete the training mission.
I don't even try. I think I tried it once and I just gave up.
I tried it a few times. Every so often I try it and manage to kill one more of the adversaries, but they always get me.
I guess you'd really have to have practiced in the, combat
Well,
to
I
really
have
take
done.
that on.
Yeah. You'd have thought the idea of the training mission was to be practice, not to require practice.
Exactly, yeah. It's
Yeah.
too hard for a sort of tutorial.
I made it through on the first go.
Really? Yeah.
Good for you.
I do play a fair bit of shooters, though. So.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, I
Well, that
don't
makes
remember
a
it being
difference, I think.
tremendously difficult.
Oh, have you seen on YouTube a guy goes by the call sign, or at least his channel is Grandpa Gaming,
Don't think so.
No.
and he plays COD and Battlefield or whatever it is. The guy is just a scarily good sniper,
I have seen that.
and he's like sniping a guy who's like half a mile away up on a roof, and his little amused giggle just sends it like.
And he's like late 60s, early 70s, probably. He's a
Yeah,
nose for each
exactly. And I'm like going, good for you, Gramps.
Vietnam didn't do anything to you. Clearly, you're perfectly well.
Yeah, he doesn't have PTSD. He has nostalgia.
Right.
You have at least 2 people on this trek now who are early 70s.
Ah,
Oh yeah, but this is a very different style of game as well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I
like
expect
other
this
people in
kind
their
of game to
70s
attract
snipers.
a more mature crowd, but shooters don't
Yes.
typically have that.
yeah. The contrast is the amusing part,
Oh yeah.
where he's like sniping 15 and 20-year-olds, like.
That's the funniest part
here,
of
this
all.
whole- exactly.
Backing up
I'm
to
not
see if I can-
exactly a spring chicken myself. I'm a couple of years from 60, and I always joke, you know, hey, you want to know my age? I am exactly as old as the Star Trek franchise plus 2 months. I'll let you do the math.
Okay. I think it was good at lead.
But
Is that
on the other hand, that puts you in the vanguard of personal computer gamers because
yeah.
Oh hell, I
you
was
would have
playing.
been the Apple II would have come out when, let's see, in the late 70s. So
Yeah. I was playing the original stand-up coin-op Space War, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
Is that
And
ship
the
up
orig-
ahead hovering over the crater, by the way?
Well, a Mamba
it's-
just landed.
It's just
Yeah.
short of the crater
It's
rim.
Crater rim.
Oh, right.
yeah, I saw a ship
Um,
come down.
So
Um,
let's head for the member, shall we?
I can't
Okay.
see the Mamba at the moment.
Oh,
I saw it fly
it's,
by.
I saw it fly, yeah, but I can't see it
I saw
hovering.
it fly. It's quite a long
it
way
is-
over from where I am.
Okay.
It may be a bit like we're headed at 240.
Oh, that
look at
moon's
230.
reappeared at the bottom. If you look at
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Oh, I see the Mamba now. Yeah.
Ah, there.
Yeah, I can see the Mamba.
I was
yeah,
gonna
that
say,
we've
And
gone the whole
I'm
cycle,
heading.
I
I'm
think,
heading
now.
in its general
Come out.
direction.
one of the great things about the
It's
Unix
close enough.
community generally is that there is actually quite a wide age range, about probably
Oh,
more
yeah.
than most games that I've seen out there. With maybe the exception is, say, of Call of Duty or something, where you say you've got like Vietnam veterans down to like 6-year-olds playing it. But yeah, it's a good age range, I think.
Yeah.
That Mamba is a long way away. So
I think so, yeah.
I've got a teammate signal at 600 meters south. I assume that's Mac.
Now this bit near the sort of, as I'm closing in towards the ship, it does have a very sort of climb to cone crater feel about it. Keep going through this undulating terrain, all these boulders, thinking, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" It can't be much further. And
This would be a nightmare in a proper suit dragging a sled too.
that's what I'm saying. There's like they used the lunar rickshaw, the Met, for about half the distance, and they had to give it up because it was just too much. But the fact they got that far with it's quite remarkable.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine this being deeply confusing in.
Did Apollo 12 use the rickshaw?
No. 14 is the only one ever used the rickshaw.
I was going to ask because Apollo 13, of course, never made it, and Apollo 14.
13 wasn't usually used the rickshaw either, so 14 was going to be the first one to use it, even with its original landing site. Obviously, they changed it to the Apollo 13 landing site because of
Right.
scientific reasons. But yeah, so 13 was originally going to be an even further walk to Cone Crater. They were going to land further away. There's no way 13 would have made it, basically. I mean, 14 got
Yeah.
close to making it to the edge of Cone Crater. They were like 30 meters away, but they didn't realize they were that close. And that's the thing. But yeah, it's like
Wait, how did they figure out that they were 30 meters away later?
reconnaissance from orbit. You could see the tracks, and the closest point is about 30 meters.
Ah,
Wow.
crater! I see.
yeah, I'm just heading over towards the.
I'm following the
crater and
ships
the
now.
Mamba now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm some distance away.
I'm right behind you. Very handy having the ships pointing the way.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. But I think, hey, we've worked well, and we've worked for it. I think the last little bit is fine to have the ships lighting it up.
Yeah, that's fine.
That was actually neat. The cutter turned the lights on and it reflected in a straight line all the way back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Team signal is now 1.15 kilometers.
I think you'll see that line is the ring of the gas giant as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's behind the moon.
definitely is. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
So
the
I
moon
think,
that disappeared before is now out the other side.
Yep.
So I think I've used 1.7 energy cells in that journey.
I've used 2 so far.
As have
I'm
I.
1.6. I'm down to 39% on the second cell.
I've still only used one,
Oh,
but
wow,
I'm
I'm here.
getting close to using another one.
Yeah.
I'm at 80% on cell 2, so I got one to go.
Yeah, I'm the
just used
same.
weapon.
Wow.
I think I can recall my ship now.
Yeah, everyone's best to recall their ship as quickly as they can. JBL's activating the system authority link.
That's what happens when you recall your ship, which is bizarre because the ship actually has system authority link off.
I don't get that. That's just strange.
Okay, so this is the crater?
Yep, it's the crater.
Okay.
I'm sitting here with Infinity
Well,
Devil.
congratulations, gents.
I think actually all the Apollo sites have been like viewed several times by different countries' lunar orbiters over the years. And because you know the conspiracy theorist nonsense, like, okay, why are there all these tracks and the remains of a lunar lander in the exact places they said they would, with the exact like map sort of where they went, where they walked, where the rovers were in those places? You know?
That's because all these opposing countries have gotten together and worn the same tinfoil hat. Don't you know?
Of course.
Yeah, don't expect logic from the conspiracy
My ship
wackos.
somewhere.
Of course.
They will, even if you actually took them up to the freaking moon, showed them Apollo 11 right there, they'd still probably rationalize some
This
way.
is-
Yeah, probably.
It's just, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's the same boat as the flat Earth folks.
I thought that was even worse than that. I mean, I think as long as they had moon landing conspiracy, they don't deny the moon exists, and they don't deny that planetary motion exists, etc. And we live on, you know, a rotating sort of sphere and what have you. It's just like even by conspiracy theory standards, the flat earthers are the absolute worst because they make,
I know.
you know what I mean?
And that's a recent thing. Why did that pop up?
I don't know. It's just. Okay, I think some people did it as a joke for years, but then it's like a lot of people started to genuinely believe in it again. It's like, how?
Yeah,
In this day and age, particularly, how is that even possible?
I know. I only started hearing about flat earthers about, I guess about 6-7 years ago. And it just gobsmacked me.
I think as a kid, I remember hearing about them in the 80s, but it was such that everyone thought they were completely insane at this point, and no serious person would ever be a flat earther. But it was literally like such a rare thing. But it's just like, I think the internet has actually just spread whatever insane conspiracy theories much more rapidly.
Take a screenshot.
Siloing of people
Yeah.
last 10 years has contributed to the massive rise in conspiracy theories.
Yeah, online echo chambers.
Witness the United States. Is where I am.
We've got a hot mess going, that's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, here we go. I'm just going to take a quick screenshot. And then
Oh,
I'll
hey,
go
there's
back to my ship.
There's a crater there, LB.
Yep, there we go. Alright. Just wanted to make sure I got a couple of screenshots before I went back to my ship.
Yeah.
There we
Oh,
go. Got it.
what a crater
My
that
ship's
is.
landed on the edge of the crater,
And
so
here
when I
we
look at
are.
the little window at my feet, it's
This is the cone crater we spoke of. I suspect
Yeah.
they would have seen something quite similar if they'd have reached that point.
Well, that was a good little trip there.
That was nice.
And
yeah.
Fantastic.
I think that does give a perspective on the work involved, because you can imagine how much harder it would be.
Yeah.
Especially, as you said, working against those original spacesuits with the pressure inside.
Mhm.
I imagine that, little bunny hop maneuver really helped out. Because I think if you do it right, you're moving the suit in a very minimal fashion.
Sure. Yes, indeed.
Doing the same thing I am, Yannick.
Yeah, I mean, I literally don't remember every single on foot control. In space, I remember them all on foot, not so much. I think I'm getting the right one anyway.
It's old Q for me.
I wager that the suits that our characters are wearing are very much of the maintain pressure by constriction method.
Mm-hmm.
You know, make them skin tight so there's no air in there except in the helmet.
I had a horrible premonition that at the end of this, we'd all be standing on the top of the crater, recall our ships, and Cinder's ship would land on everyone.
Or land in the crater.
No. That would be awful.
But yeah.
Some videos of people when their ships land on them. There's an unbelievable one that Trillic posted a while ago where his Anaconda boops him off the top of a hill that he's standing on, and he manages to get his shield turned on, to get thrown off the hill, come down a long way and survive.
I think it was on the Wild Wild West expedition. We found a mountain peak. This is on one of those worlds with the really pronounced canyons and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was this one peak off by itself between canyons that was like super tall, and for some reason it was green at the top. Nobody figured out why it was green. There's certainly no plants there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but there was a plateau up there where people could land, and so everybody was. I probably should have brought a smaller ship, but I took the Anaconda, and I was gonna land and put my SRV down, and the only place I could find to land is like right at the edge of the cliff, and I managed to land successfully. And right as I was starting to deploy the SRV, somebody said, your SRV, it's over the edge. And I was like going, crap. Well, too late now. So my SRV literally dropped half a mile down the side of that mountain with my ship at the top.
Mm-hmm.
I managed to survive that.
Yeah.
But that was embarrassing.
Yeah. I think it was on one of Yannick's expeditions, maybe Orion, that someone on some very uneven terrain managed to deploy their SRV and it glitched straight through the surface of the planet.
That's a glitch that happened frequently.
Yeah. And carried on down all the way.
Yeah.
Well, it was one of the expeditions. We were fooling around. It's like right at the start, we're all fooling around, and I had my beluga, and we were doing that thing where you fire. What is it? Weapon you fire at landed ship, and it leaves all the.
To charge up the shields.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you
and
get yeeted off.
You touch, and I think I got my beluga up to like 2,000 kilometers a second or some stupid figure like that. It just absolutely, or 2,000 meters, whatever, well above normal max speed. It just flew off at incredible speeds.
Yeah.
And then when I was coming back, there was some kind of bug, and it glitched, and all of a sudden I was landed, but about a mile in the air. So I thought,
What?
this is interesting.
Yeah.
Because it said ship
Ah.
landed and all this kind of. So I thought,
Yeah,
well,
I've seen
what happens
that.
if I deploy the SRV at this stage? And the SRV just fell out the bottom of the ship, fell through the ground, and went all the way through. I thought, let's just wait till it happens. And you go through where the sea would be, and you shoot out, you always come out
I mean, you can't activate your engines when you're locked down, but if you could, I wonder.
Well,
Yes.
on in-game terms, the answer would be 0 because the carriers don't move.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
No, the thing to do would be to flip the ships upside down, or nose down, wherever it makes the main thrusters point up, and then everybody thrust. We should try
Right.
that sometime. Get like a Type 10, and have with FA off, and get everybody sort of with noses against the Type 10, and then all thrust at once.
Yeah.
Oh,
See how
okay.
fast we can get a Type 10 to go.
Laterally.
Take a whole bunch of like the really fast ships, like Imperial Eagles,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
maxed out engineering, and then all the Imperial engines just push.
I think you would destroy the shields and the hull very quickly.
Yes. Yeah, there'd probably be
Of
it'd
the
probably be
Type 10
explosions.
or of those that are trying to push it?
Both.
Okay,
It's-
fair enough.
It sounds like rebuy science is needed here.
Yes. I nearly got killed on one expedition by somebody who thought it was fun to keep firing fuel limpets at me. And I didn't need the fuel, the limpets just ignored me, but they stayed around and kept on bashing my hull.
Oh my.
By the time I noticed what was going on, I was down to about 15%.
Right, my dad has just called, so I have to go out right now. But I shall see
Okay.
you all next week. I think for the next 3 weeks, though, my dad's in Malta, so I'll be able
Okay.
to stay for the duration.
All right. Well, have a good time at the pub.
Okay,
Yeah.
have a good one.
Seven.
Yeah, see
See
you.
you all next time.
See you then.
Alrighty.
You.
And the suit energy gets charged up again. Wonderful.
So when are we heading out to orbit?
I'll be heading up in a second, so but yeah, that was an interesting little climb, wasn't it?
It
I'm
was.
glad.
Yeah.
It would have been extraordinarily boring but for the conversation.
I did worry about that, but then I thought, well, there's enough of us around, and there is the conversation as well. Because even if you're just looking for people in the distance, you're still looking for something, you know.
Yeah.
It was actually quite nice to have an activity where I could kind of run on autopilot and enjoy the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Conversation makes a lot of things go by easier.
Oh yeah, 100%. like trying to aim for a point in the sky that's not the other moon.
It's like flying a fertile ants all over again.
Right, this
I've
could get
been on,
interesting.
I've been on trips where I've been driving for about anywhere from 10 to 14 hours at a stretch. You can't do that by yourself. But if you've got somebody to talk to, you can do it.
Oh yeah. I suppose there is always like podcasts and things to keep you sort of, you know, present, but it's not really the same, is it?
Not quite, no.
Yeah, without company, I think 3 to 4 hours is my limit.
There was that one time when I was young where I managed to drive. Denton, Texas is just north of Dallas and Fort Worth. I drove straight from Denton, Texas, all the way to Santa Cruz, California in 34 hours.
Mm-hmm. It's a long one.
Yes. Yes, there was a girl involved.
Motivation, yeah.
My record was 26 consecutive hours on the road, and it was just me, my brother, and a 3-legged cat in a U-Haul.
And you didn't even have the audio book of Jack Kerouac on the road.
No, we finally switched off just west of Kansas City, and I woke up 2 hours later east of Kansas City doing 92 miles an hour in the left-hand lane, passing semi-trucks like they were sitting still. I said, pull over, I'm driving the rest of the way, bud.
Well,
dear.
I don't know if a lot of British people have heard of the Isle of Wight Pop Festival.
I've heard of the Isle of Wight. I don't know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at a map.
It's off the south coast.
The festival's quite
of England,
famous,
but,
though, yeah.
I travelled in with 3 other people in a Reliant Regal 3-wheeler from the northwest of England. So probably
Not a Reliant Robin?
no, it's a Regal.
Similar.
Similar enough, yeah.
We'd got very little sleep during the pop festival, and travelling home. I think we were somewhere near one of the service stations, and the driver told us that at one point all 4 of us had been asleep. So we had to stop.
That's not a good sign.
Ironically, that was how I found myself in that situation. My brother had moved to Phoenix from Ohio and had only ridden a bike, for a couple of years now. He's like, I'm not really comfortable driving a U-Haul, so I flew out to drive it back.
So when you found yourself doing 90 down the wrong side of the road, was that your brother or the cat who was driving?
I'm not really sure who was the mastermind there, but I understand why he didn't want to drive it back. I switched off with our mother in Dayton. I said, you're driving the rest of the way. Do not let him behind the wheel. Supposedly, he's gotten better these days.
Okay.
He still has the bike, but he drives the car more now. Our weather for 4 or 5 months of the year is not really conducive to riding a motorcycle.
Oh dear.
No doubt, no
said
doubt.
On the crew lounge a while ago, I pancaked on a dark moon because I was focusing on the ship panel to turn on night vision. To see the ground.
Wow, it's an interesting thing here. There's things that can happen with these 2 bodies in proximity to each other that just won't happen normally, and that's one of them.
Yes.
I did that with my Phantom sometime at the beginning of the week. I just wasn't paying attention to the gravity and ended up at 8% hull.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, I just lost your low wake. Oh, got it again.
So, do we have an instance in which
We do have an instance. I don't have a target yet, so I'll bring people into it as quickly as I can.
Okay.
Right.
There was that one time when we had a road that did a 90-degree turn right, and then at the end of exactly 1 mile, turned 90 degrees left. And we figured, this is a good spot to test the quarter-mile speed on various cars that we had as young men. And well, I was trying to get myself up to a particular speed, and I was not succeeding at it, and therefore I was allowing myself to accelerate a little bit further than I should have. We're up to the half-mile mark, and I'm still at 100 miles an hour. And my brother, who's in the passenger seat, goes, "You need to stop now." And I did, and but the brakes weren't cooperating. So I wound up slinging around that 90-degree turn by using the engine to spin the wheels and slow myself down even further. I literally whipped the back end around on that turn, and this is like an old '67 Mustang, which didn't have the suspension package, so we're leaned way over to the right, and my brother got a real good view of the road surface. Finally got ourselves straightened out, and I looked over and said, "We were stopped," and I looked over and said, "You okay over there?" He says, "I'm fine, but these seat covers are ruined."
Who needs a team signal?
Let's see. It is on team. Hey, Yannick, I don't see you. I may be pointed in the wrong direction. Approximately, where are you?
I am between the two worlds.
Ah,
I mean,
okay.
I'm having a problem actually finding a target at the moment. If it continues to be like that, I have to move further out. It'd have been like a great shot, but if I can't find one, then that might be a problem.
Okay.
Just bear with a little bit. So I probably will be able to find one. It's just not an obvious ask at the moment.
Right.
Has everyone got at least like a 30 light year range, or preferably higher?
Where's the other moon?
40 light years, if possible.
I can give you 17.
Did you say 70 or 17?
17.
Oh, that's even smaller than I thought.
Well, they could switch
You
ships.
can jump home in map up to 34.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
True,
yeah,
true.
yeah, could do that.
Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, I think because of the altitude we're at above the galaxy, there's not as many target options as I would have liked. But then again, I think I've got one actually. 31 light years with Jumponium, that is possible for you, so that should be okay.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Right, I'll copy it into the chat now. 31.
There's that other moon. And I was on the complete opposite side.
Well, the trick is to get in a wing with somebody who's already in the instance instead of a wing with somebody who isn't.
Yep.
I see Banel, I don't see Yannick. Huh. Yannick, you got your beacon on?
Yeah, should be. I'll double check.
Sure.
Yep, all is good. I have 2 people in my wing, you included.
Yeah.
Should be here.
I just don't see on radar or anything. Like I said, I see Banul. I just don't see you. Hey, AG. Well, I'll tell you what. We must be in a different instance. You're right, Getadoi. It's probably the case. Tell you what I'm going to do is swing out. Oh, you did? Okay. Well, if that's the case, then I will follow you.
But the goal is just to meet together. Could we meet at one of the carriers? Just there, pop out, super cruise right by a carrier.
We do have a carrier nearby.
Big enough thing, we could just hover around it.
Can I request an invite?
Carriers aren't great for instancing though. Sorry, who wanted a wing?
There we go. Now I got you. Whoop. I slipped past there.
Yeah. It's still going to be a good jump, I think, beneath the sort of whitish, silvery coloured moon.
There we go. Now I've got it. There we go. Okay. I'm in the right instance now.
I'm under this cutter, and I am absolutely tiny. I could land on it.
It's a big ship, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, and I've switched back to the ASP, so it's not helping things any.
Right, did anyone else need a wing? Team invite. That's a good shot.
Perfidious Spoon is the only other one who's in system and not here on my friends list.
Okay, let's try and get them in.
I
Already in
I'll
team.
I'll go ahead and drop team. Give you some room.
I can do that as well.
Check the Elon. There we go. Copy.
Yeah, once we get everyone into instance, then I'll start presentation for this week.
I almost feel like we had a second presentation with the run.
Yeah, it's just like general sort of information about the climb and other fun stuff from the Apollo era.
The toilet facilities.
Yes.
I think by the time they did actually get to like the surface landings, they had actually got amenities in the suit, shall we say. They had worked that one out. It'd have been so embarrassing if they hadn't by that point.
Yeah.
Some fireworks have started already.
Well, let me shut off my point defense.
Oh.
I shot the firework down.
I'm not seeing anybody right now locally, so maybe a team invite might help.
Who was asking for team invites?
Infinity Devil.
Infinity Devil.
Cool.
Yep, I'll do that.
Nice.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm gonna. I'll send you a friend request for future use.
Oh, the pretty colours. And the Mamba is showing off. Which is fine.
Or it's out of control.
Yes. An FA off and it started spinning.
Thruster malfunction.
He'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
I was just trying to spin up my FSD.
It's a good one.
Oh, and the flywheel got stuck, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Do you get better directional stability if you're spinning as you fly?
Interesting.
I don't think
thought.
we have ships that are big enough yet to spin and create artificial gravity.
Not quite.
I mean,
No.
Although-
10.
Although on that the Nautilus variant of the carrier, I sort of, my own personal headcanon, I see several areas where there could be centrifuges inside the hull,
Yeah.
especially that forward portion.
I think
Although
this.
I don't think any of them would have windows. I think that's internal.
I think, in terms of views, this is about as good as you're going to get anywhere within the game.
Yeah. I mean, with the with the 2 moons and the gas giant beyond, I mean, we're full into 70s prog rock album cover here.
Oh,
you know?
totally, yeah. Total immersion. Prog rock. Yeah. This is
The only way it could possibly be any better is if we were surrounded by a planetary nebula.
yeah. Plenty of those still to be found, I'm sure. The planetary nebulas, because they're small
Oh,
enough
yeah,
not always to know that they're there until you hit them.
Yeah. Well, there's like if you go to EDS Germastrix or EDSM still, you see you can look for those, and they're real thick this part of the galaxy.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Well, kind of everything is thick in this part of the galaxy, but
Yeah.
Including me.
Give yourself some credit.
Oh, yeah. What was it Commander Ivanova said in Babylon 5? Doctor gave her a diet to follow, and says, "But I'll gain weight." Yes, but you need that. Great. I've spent all my life. So she's like Russian, and she's like going, "Great. Now I am the expanding imperial frontier."
Wow. Okay, is anyone else still coming into the instance? Okay, if that's everyone, I'll drop the link in the chat and we can start the presentation for this leg of the journey.
I'm gonna get out of voice to listen to it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Okay. Hello everyone out there in YouTube land. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good evening, morning, night, wherever you are on this lovely ball of what curtling through space. Right, let's crack on with this, the Waypoint 6, the Waypoint Kittyhawk presentation. Bear with me just one moment while everything spools up. Right, here we are. The good old Saturn V rocket. The very underpinnings, as it were, of the whole sort of lunar landing program. That the every lunar flight from Apollo 8 to 17 flew on top of the stack. That is often referred to, the whole thing together is called the stack, the Saturn V. You see at the top of it, you see the two spacecraft that will be used on these journeys to the moon. The so-called CSM, the Command Service Module, at the very top, and the lunar module nestled within the upper stage, the often referred to as the S4B stage of the Saturn V. Now, the command module itself was named, unsurprisingly, Kittyhawk, after Kittyhawk, South Carolina, where the Wright brothers first took to the air and did the first powered flight in 1903, and named such by by Colonel Stuart Rooser, actually, the CSM, sorry, the command module pilot for this particular voyage. And the command module, as we were talking about earlier on our little climb to our own cone crater, is not the biggest of spacecraft, but for 3 people, at least in zero gravity, there's some room to maneuver. This is the crew, obviously, in the command module simulator on their training for the mission. Obviously, like, I think in Apollo 8, they actually just use only the command and service modules to actually travel to the moon, being the first people to ever see the moon up close. Obviously, this is a picture of the command module Kittyhawk in Apollo 14 from the perspective of the lunar module circulating the moon. Obviously, this is the time of the Block 2 command modules. Obviously, the Block 1 was going to be flown on Apollo 1, but they'd had so many flaws in it, it was part of the reason that the fire happened and the tragedy of Apollo 1 unfurled. But the Block 2 was always going to be the ones they sent to the moon in the end. And the Block 1 was going to be a sort of in-Earth orbit demonstration, but it was like the first attempt of Block 1 at building an Apollo 3-man spacecraft. But it was scrapped and essentially was only used for unmanned tests from that point onwards. Another picture of Kittyhawk there. This is also sort of, I think, probably not long after separation from the command module, when you sort of entered lunar orbit. Now, the interesting thing about this is that Apollo 14 was actually the first Apollo mission to have these short rendezvous, which basically means like Apollos 11 and 12 just had a very circular orbit. The command module would just orbit around in a very circular fashion, maybe slightly elliptical, but more or less circular. And that was just like the standard way of doing it. And then once they worked out, okay, we can probably actually save some fuel for the lander, which has quite a limited amount of fuel on board, and so we can maybe get a more precise landing, maybe even potentially take more equipment with us. If we can have a shorter rendezvous and actually drop off the lunar module at a lower point in the orbit, and you do that by having a more elliptical orbit. So basically what they would do, once they were on the trajectory to the moon, the command module and the lunar module sort of stack would then actually slow down and enter a fairly circular orbit as their initial lunar orbit. Then the command module pilot would then do some maneuvers to then they're from going from a circular orbit to a very elliptical one. And then at the lowest point of the ellipse, nearest the moon's surface, would actually be the point that they would actually obviously aim to let the lunar module go, so that it could actually take a much shorter trajectory down to the surface and save time and fuel. Interesting though, before you actually get to the point of that happening, there were some issues with the spacecraft. Just a quick picture. This is the Kittyhawk in its present residency in the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral. There were problems extracting the lunar module from the S4B upper stage. This hadn't happened in any Apollo flight previous or afterwards for that matter. For some reason, the docking latches would not actually attach in the third phase on the right that you see, when you're actually trying to extract the lunar module from the upper stage of the Saturn V. And this went on for quite a while. They kept on like going to and fro, trying to dock the spacecraft together. But each time the latches wouldn't actually attach properly and bring the two craft together properly, which is a problem because you can't do that. You can't extract, you can't move the lunar module out of the S4B housing of the upper stage. And if you can't pull it out of its housing, you can't land on the moon. You just end up being just a lunar orbit mission, and that would be the end of that. But after a while, they were starting to despair somewhat, both on the spacecraft and the mission control, because they were taking several attempts, and each time the docking latches would not attach properly. And then they decided to try and maybe take some time to work out what was going on here, because it was getting to the point that they were just using more and more fuel to do this. But in the end, I think they actually decided to use almost brute force to try and like ram it in, and it did actually work, and the docking clamps finally attached. But they were getting quite close to the point where they said, well, we're just going to have to call this off. There won't be enough fuel to do this otherwise. But yeah, it was in some ways quite a close run thing, because remember, this is on the back of Apollo 13. NASA could not afford another failure. And so one of the theories would have been that if they couldn't do it then, they would have might actually gone depressurized the cabin and then pull the docking probe in and to examine it to see what was wrong. Eventually, when they got back to Earth, they couldn't find what was actually wrong with it. So it was a mystery what had actually happened. But ultimately, the lunar module is obviously the key to all these lunar landings. And this is a picture of, obviously, Shepard and Mitchell training within the lunar module simulator. Now, the lunar module is, to this day, still the only spacecraft built to fly only in zero gravity. It has no ability to re-enter an atmosphere, but then again, it didn't need to. This, what you're seeing, is actually basically a trainer for lunar landings that has like a turbojet mounted vertically. And this ungainly looking flying bedstead was basically designed to give the lunar landing commander, who would fly the last bit of the mission manually on every Apollo landing, they would give them some sort of kind of general simulation of what it would be like to actually land the lunar lander, because obviously you had a very limited amount of time to do the final descent. Some of you may have seen the footage of Neil Armstrong actually nearly being killed on this. I think its name was the LATV. I've got that right. But yeah, it's like there's a footage of Armstrong actually not too long before Apollo having to actually use the ejection seat and bailing out at the last second because there was a malfunction on it. And yeah, it was a close run thing. It was a difficult aircraft to fly, LATV. But ultimately, all the lunar landing commanders and their backups, their understudies, were very, very used to flying this by the time they got to land on the moon. And also another way of simulating it, apart from, say, the LATV and the lunar landing simulator, was also helicopters. But that's a story for another time. This is a picture taken, obviously, from the command module, trying to extract the lunar module from the upper stage before they actually managed to fully get it out. But it was successfully extracted eventually. Now, the name of the lunar module was quite interesting because it's Antares. This was picked by Mitchell after the star Antares, which I think was actually one of the stars that they were using for navigational purposes during the mission as a sort of distant point to be locked on. Another sort of great picture sort of shimmering in the light. And you must remember the lunar module, I mean, it looks unusual. Some people refer to it as being like a spider, and I think one of the early lunar modules was nicknamed Spider. I think it might have been the Apollo 9 one, the first orbital test with a human on board, was actually called Spider. But yeah, it's a very thin and very fragile spacecraft. I mean, it was not much of an exaggeration to say that it's like, parts of it I thought it was thinner than a can of drink, more like tinfoil, but because it was in 0G or 1/6 gravity on the moon, you didn't really need that much structural integrity, as long as it could actually take the impact of landing. That's all you needed. But during manufacture, they reckon if you actually dropped a heavy tool like a heavy wrench through, it would actually just go through the floor. That's how thin it was. I mean, to think that they actually, on later missions like Apollo 15, flew this between lunar mountains, it took some serious courage to fly these things. Because obviously, you made any mistakes, there was no way of rescue. This is also an interior mock-up and used for training. The commander who was flying most of the lunar module's sort of time would have actually been on the left-hand side there, and on the right-hand side, the misnamed lunar module pilot, who rarely ever piloted the lunar module, was more like a flight engineer, but they were also trained to take control of the lunar module if there was some reason that the commander was indisposed. Yeah, this is not particular. I don't think it's particularly from Antares, but this is like a generic picture of the sort of the guidance system that would have been used on the lunar module. It's a very interesting tale, which we'll talk about more another time, but about the reprogramming of the computer of the lunar module Antares in orbit, because they were having various errors and the thing was going haywire essentially. But yeah, it's one of it's a very remarkable story, but not one we've got time to go into just yet, but for another week definitely. Just to get some idea of the very small cramped space inside the lunar module on the surface, you would have, this is a NASA picture of the two hammocks. One was sort of lying across amongst the other at the lower level. This is one down the bottom there you can see, like facing away from us, and the other one at the top. And yeah, this was like a tiny space, not even a room really, more like a sort of a closet or a storage space. And people lived up to 3 days in these tiny spaces. They wouldn't usually actually end up in their hammocks in their spacesuits, though some of them did. Probably not very comfortable, I suspect. And there's quite a funny story attached to Apollo 14 on this one. And it is basically that I think there was like various noises in the middle of the mission, like when they were trying to have a rest period, they were trying to sleep, and like you'd hear the odd sort of circulation pump or the air conditioning make certain noises at various times. And it could be a bit eerie considering there are no sounds to be heard on the moon. You're the only living beings on the moon, and so you know a lot of the noise is going to be coming from you. But then Shepard starts whispering over to Mitchell about various things, and then he goes back to his, like, Ed is like, yeah, Al, why are we whispering? It's like, there's no one else to disturb, you know, you're the only living beings on the entire surface of this world, you know, you can shout as loud as you want and no one would care apart from the other person. But yeah, that's Kittyhawk and Antares. And I will now return to the formation. And return to the live game as well. Interesting in the chat, it says Logan Darklighter. So I guess how they managed to carry more weight like the rover shorter distance from orbit. Less fuel, more equipment you can take. Yeah, absolutely. Neil Armstrong went back to the office to do the paperwork about the accident. A very cool guy. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? They're all very sort of laid-back people. They had to be. Okay. Oh yeah, that was the confirmed names of Apollo 9's Commander Service modules were Gumdrop and Spider. Yeah, I think they stopped giving them imaginative names after Apollo 10. And they had to be more sensible for PR reasons, because I think Apollo 10 was Charlie Brown and Snoopy, which are my personal favourites for those. Because obviously they did it mainly to get some kids interested, and I think that's really cool though. It's I think it's one picture.
That's a worthy cause.
It is. I think there's a fun picture, I think, for the launch of, I don't know which mission it was, but it might have Apollo 10 itself actually, where you have a picture of Tom Stafford, the commander, actually like patting this sort of huge Snoopy beagle on the head. You know, it's absolutely brilliant. But yeah, thanks to everyone in the chat, and we're in orbit in formation, ready to jump above this interesting pair of worlds. These are two moons orbiting a sort of a collective sort of barycenter of gravity between them. And then you've got the gas giant in the background. And this is as beautiful place as you're going to see in almost any game, I think. One of the things we love about Elite is scenes like this. Cool. Right, I'll return to the cockpit now. Is everyone here and ready to go?
Yep.
Yep.
Ready?
Okay, all present and correct. Wonderful. Okay, let's spool up if you have not already done so. Warm up those FSDs to jump. I'll start the count shortly from 10 to 1. Okay, we're already in present. As they say, light this candle. We're jumping in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hit it. Well, that was close. And we're away. Yeah, I was sort of aiming originally to jump between those two worlds, but I couldn't find a jump target that was close enough. But, you know, you can't get everything. And we're here.
Alright.
Looking for the trails. And there they are. Like a spider's web sometimes. Like a spider's web around the star.
One expedition when we all fired up probes. And,
Oh yes.
they're doing.
Wow. Somebody's firing off a lot of those.
What's going on?
So it's firing off a lot of probes. You can see the sort of spider's web around the star.
I think I've got a bit of an audio glitch here.
Yeah, there's kind of feedback going on. I thought it sounded like, you know, early 80s dance music for a second.
Alrighty.
See you. Carrier will be heading off tomorrow morning as usual.
Awesome.
Alright.
Yeah, thanks to all the different carrier captains as well. I know it can't have been easy recently. I know officially we don't have any official carriers, but it's always good for people who are willing to actually expend that much tritium and that much money for the sake of the community.
Absolutely.
Actually, yeah, I'll once I'm back on the carrier and have my Mandalay transferring back, I will switch to my alt, and you can see the suit.
Okay.
Nice. I'll.
Where will you be waiting inside the carrier?
In the bar.
in the bar.
I will go
Okay.
to the bar as well, so let's do that. I'll keep it on stream as well, so people can see the latest in suit technologies.
Wait, did I just? Is that?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was 2 jumps, not 1.
Yeah, I'm going to jump back to Skier as well and have a look at this.
I was gonna say I got fortunate with the neutron star boosts from last waypoint to this, but really, this whole area is just chock-a-block full of neutron stars.
Oh, they're everywhere.
Mm-hmm. I think Simus went into one of the neutron layers in that case. Because obviously, for those who are new to Elite, there's 2 layers above and below the galactic plane that are just like chock-a-block with neutrons. That's why we often refer to them as neutron layers, neutron stars.
In fact, one of them between the human bubble and the second human bubble at Colonia is called specifically the neutron highway.
Yeah.
You can go between those 2 really quickly.
Yeah.
That was how I got back to Duran's carrier from Waypoint 5. I just jet coned in my first, I think, 10 jumps were all boosted jumps.
Gone to external camera for the neutron. So yeah, it's a spectacular way. I mean, the carrier looks like it's in a dangerous place, but it isn't really. It still looks more dangerous than it actually is. It's like typical sort of, stunt flying and what have you. You've got to make it look dangerous, but it probably really isn't,
It certainly sounds dangerous.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Funny that you don't actually get that sound when you're actually in normal space next to the carrier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? I thought even a distant sound would have been kind of nice. Yeah, Skier and its Apollo white paint job.
Thanks all, that was brilliant. Enjoyed that.
Awesome, glad to hear it.
Yeah. I've never watched the fire in this game, so that's brilliant. Really enjoyed it. So, see you next week.
Awesome. Catch
All
you
right.
then.
Yeah, see
Have
you
a
later.
good day. Cheers. Bye.
Some nice posts got in images as well.
Oh, I love the post of the spider one.
Oh yeah.
I also have to leave, so thank you for this meeting. For the
All right.
weird
Thank
fun.
you.
Hey,
See you.
glad to have you.
Oh,
So, see you next week.
Have a good
Alright.
one.
Bye.
Yeah, see ya.
it's a long walk from the cabin of a T9 to the bar.
The T9 should have its own bar inside, it's so big.
Yeah.
It's kind of silly that it doesn't. Right, let's disembark and have a look what we can find. The Mobile Holiday Resort. The Neutron Highway Run. We were just talking about that. There's an advert for it up at the top there, next to the Buckyball Racing Club and the Fuel Rats. Right, and going to the concourse. Yep. Why in real life list this interesting, you know, go to a hotel and you have something similar.
Maybe I should switch to helmet on if I can do that without getting going.
I believe you can do that from one of the terminals.
Found Commander Griselda Liebherr. Nice haircut.
Well, well, Griselda sort of likes pink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a very sci-fi suit, isn't it? I like the silvery parts of it. Right, do we have
Yeah,
Logan
okay.
here?
Yeah,
I think it's a much.
in my regular flight.
I was going to say a much more sort of relaxed look.
Uh-huh.
And who else do we have?
Is that a purple suit that Griselda has? I think that's the reflect purple, right?
No, it's just it's the regular, it's the Vanguard, whatever it is.
Okay, it must be the lighting in the bar.
I think so. Yeah,
As always with these bars, it's like, it's the worst bar service ever. You just go for a drink and they just talk about these components that they've got behind there. It's like, but why? Commander.
I wish they would at least allow an emote for drinking.
Mm-hmm. Well, exactly. Just a brief animation at least would be nice. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange they've not done that because it's been out a while now. See if I could if I go to the bar and try and sit down.
you can sit down.
I can sit. Then if I try and talk to the barkeep.
You can talk
Yeah,
to
it's
the bar.
nothing but a.
But they won't give me anything.
nice
They won't
to-
give me a drink though.
It'd be nice if it was an actual social thing where you drink and. But,
Yeah.
Oh well.
Well, exactly.
And,
Yeah.
Blackjack
you know,
game.
Funny, if this is supposed to be a 0G environment, why do we even have seating at all?
Oh, there's
Right.
glasses behind the bar. Parked
Yeah.
on the
I
side.
know.
It looks like there's gravity, basically, doesn't it? It's like, even though the official law is there is no gravity, it obviously does.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's only zero gravity in the hangar.
Maybe.
Well, somebody's trying to get our attention from outside. The yellow Mandalay there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Someone's definitely interested in joining the party.
Yeah.
Well, I
Okay.
tried to signal SOS, and he flew away before I finished the message.
Oh well. Yeah, this is
Okay,
the.
Anyway, I think I'm going to call it a day. See you
enough.
another time.
Okay, have a good
All
one.
right.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Let's get back to the bar and not drink anything.
Have a good night. See you around.
I suppose.
Have a good one.
suppose this bar only has the synthahol and doesn't have Guinan's secret stash behind.
Sure thing. But even then, it's like, even if it wasn't intoxicating, it's like, I want something. Got all these drinks here and I'm not allowed to have any.
Yeah.
Very
I'd
strange.
at least like to have a. What is it? It is. It is green.
That is all its properties. It is
Laddie's
green.
expression was like, "Oh, it's good enough for me, laddie."
Yeah. Even going back to the original series of Star Trek, this is like strange green-looking drink and Aldebaran whiskey or whatever it was.
Yeah.
The advert for Lakeon Type 8 as well. I must admit, I've hardly flown the Type 8. It seems like a decent ship, but I don't have much experience with it, if I'm honest.
I just started an alt and ground up a Type 8 yesterday, and I've flown it a bit before, but it is a fun ship to fly.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I've heard good things.
Seems it's only a single-person cockpit, though. It seems like something like that that looks like it's industrial and all that. Seems like it would have at least a two-place cockpit.
Yeah, you would think.
You would hope, yeah. It is
But
surprising.
then again, Then again, maybe it's like a John Deere tractor. There still is only one seat,
Yeah, it makes sense for a tractor to only have one seat, though, doesn't it?
That's true, yeah.
But for a ship like that, it's like even some of the small ships have often a second seat, unless they're a fighter, like an Imperial Eagle or something.
Oh,
But
yeah, there it makes sense.
from like an adder, a hauler, etc., they've still got another seat there. So it's like, well, why would you only have one?
Well, no, the hauler doesn't actually have a second seat.
Doesn't
it's
it?
a single seat.
Oh.
Yeah, the hauler's a single-seater. The adder has two.
That's probably what I was thinking of. Yeah. Oh well.
The hauler is a surprise. The hauler is a surprisingly, if you have the mods for it, you can actually get that thing up to like 50 plus light year.
Oh, you can,
jump
yeah.
range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually my first exploration ship, the hauler, anyway. So yeah, because I couldn't afford anything else at the time. But yeah, even this is the pre-engineering era as well. At the time, I think I got it
Yeah.
up to like 25 light years of range.
Which is pretty damn good.
For the era, that was pretty good, exactly. And
Yeah.
I went out exploring and got some first discoveries, and that's where I started. And as most people, you start with what you have, and you just make the best of it, you know.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed going back to the Asp just for the view.
It's a good ship.
Yeah. Absolutely. The cockpit view from the Asp just cannot be beat.
And realistically, I mean, how often do you need more than 70 light years?
Yeah.
That's a fair point. You're right.
I'm not at 70. I'm actually at 69.69, which I find hysterical, but
I
it's
think
close enough.
For new explorers in this game, I always advise them when they said that it's such and such a range, like a good thing. I said, look, if you can get to 50, that's good. That's like a very useful range that will get you most places. Or if you want to buckyball somewhere, you can get going, pretty quickly. But that's a good number to aim for. If you went with engineering, of course. You know, if you want to aim at something, 40, 50 light years for a starter explorer is actually pretty decent. So yeah,
that's the only time I use it is if I'm trying to, get somewhere right quick and in a hurry. If I'm actually exploring, I'm trying to go as little as possible.
Sure thing.
I switch over to economical routing, and I'm doing 6 or 7 light years at a clip over here, where everything's all pushed up together.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's what a lot of people do. You say switch to economical mode if you're staying in the neighborhood. But it's all good.
Yeah, if you're trying to do an actual, detailed survey of a particular sector box, you don't. Yeah, you just go economical route and keep on going.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't there a? We may have this. I'm almost certain this was mentioned on a previous stop, but I think Yannick told a story of there was a commander in a Jumpaconda who got either got all the way there or almost all the way there by doing an economical route jump. Because the idea was
full of fuel tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, one fuel tank. One fuel tank, no refills, no star scooping. And I think he got there. I don't know if he got all.
I think he made it most of the way to Beagle Point. I think one person, first time they tried it, they made it all the way to Colonia, and then wanted a further challenge, and then nearly made it all the way to Beagle Point. I think they were like incredibly close. And I think Mac might have been telling the story initially, but I know what you mean. It's like, I think they were so close to doing it. They'd made a slightly different routing there. They would have actually made it, but they didn't. So, yeah, it's an amazing thing to do, though.
I think ultimately they actually did make it, but they didn't do it on the one tank. I think they had to have a fuel rat.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
It is amazing how little fuel you use on those small jumps. I know it always surprises me because I'll get used to running an economical, and the fuel scoop barely engages before it's full and shuts off again.
Yeah.
And then you switch back and you're doing a 64 light year jump or something, and you get 2 or 3 jumps in and pass a neutron or something. You look down, you're at half tank. You're like, oh, that's right. I need to refuel in between.
You've got to be very careful, especially using SCO in for distant parts of the same star system, because you can run out of fuel so easily if you're not careful.
I was testing in the Mandalay at Alpha Centauri out to Proxima, and I don't think I wasn't able to make it.
Mm-hmm.
I got so low that I was like, okay, I better jump out of here to Sol or something before I run out of fuel entirely. But it did make. I think if you did it in bursts, it definitely cuts down on the trip time.
Yeah, you're right. In bursts, it's probably the best way to do it. Otherwise, you're going to end up doing so many loops of shame. It's going to be funny.
Hey, you could run out of fuel. You could run out of fuel on one of those loops of shame at the end.
Absolutely. But
I did notice yesterday, because I haven't spent a ton of time in the 2nd generation ships. I did quite a bit of running around on that Type 8 on the Alt, and gained a whole new appreciation for how much more stable the SEO is in the second generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one's designed for it. Yeah.
Yeah, because in my ASP, you get a burst, and that's about it. It's less than 10 seconds. You're getting on the thermal load, and you're dancing all over the place.
Yeah. And it's I don't know which one is the most stable, but the Mandalay and the Cobra Mark V definitely very, very stable. I mean, not in terms of, they still wobble a bit through the space, but I mean in terms of being able to maintain the boost. As long as you still have the fuel, you're good.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Whereas with my Explorer Conda, it heats up real quick, and the Conda is actually a pretty cool running ship. Normally.
Yeah, I feel like the ASP heats up faster than the Phantom did.
It does, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Phantom's a pretty cool running ship too.
Though you try and
I've
put
had good luck
SEO
with it.
on the Phantom, it's quite hard to keep control of.
Yeah. Well, that was my first 50,000 light years out this direction, was in the Phantom. And I just got tired of trying to find somewhere to park it doing exobiology. It seems like it's much easier to find a landing spot for the ASP. And they can't be that much smaller. They're both medium ships.
That's true, yeah. You're right, the Phantom only slightly larger than the Asp. Yeah.
But it seems like it's much more accepting of a landing site with the Asp than it is with the Phantom.
I think it's the undercarriage. It's like much further apart with the Phantom. I think the Asp is relatively close together. It could just be that.
Yeah, it could be. And they're also much smaller pylons. I don't know how big the hitbox is, but the landing gear itself on the Asp is much smaller than those big pedestals on the Phantom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that really works into it in terms of hitbox, but if it does, then that would explain a bit.
Yeah. It's an interesting thought. But yeah, I say I might have said this previously, but in SEO drive, I nearly ran out of fuel, I think, during the 42 expedition where I was trying to do the challenge where you hit all 42 waypoints in the quickest possible time, and the extreme buckywalling we're talking about here. And I was in a jumper Conda doing this with SEO drive not long after SEO has come out. So it's it got to the point where I think there was some kind of bug or slight malfunction, because I actually kept hitting the button to disengage and it wouldn't disengage, and I thought genuinely I was going to run out of fuel, and it got so low. But then I used some jump podium to get to a fuel star nearby and didn't have to call the fuel rats in the end. But it was a close run thing, so it's very easy to do that.
Here's what happened to me the very first time I hit an SEO drive. I put it in my old Cobra Mark III, and I didn't know exactly where the controls were, and I was just hitting okay, it's not this button, it's not this button, it's not. I should have gone into the actual options and found it that way, but I hit what normally would have been the boost button on the regular Newtonian drive, and there it is, activated, and I'm just careening all over the solar system, and I'm going, okay, now what? Now how do I turn this off? How do I turn this off? How do I turn this off? I didn't think to hit the button again, and I think I was reminded of the very first episode of The Expanse when that guy triggered the Epstein drive. And I'm going, I think I blew up, and it was an Epstein moment.
Interesting.
I actually had a fairly similar experience, because the X56 HOTUS has got some ghosting input problems, particularly on the throttle quadrant piece. So a lot of the button binds I have over there are key holds, not key presses. And I'm used to just hitting it for the boost and letting go, and then in my panic trying to shut the SEO off, I forgot I had to hold it for 20 milliseconds or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Interesting. But
If I'd actually been in the Cobra Mark V, I would have had more time to figure out what was going on. But the Cobra Mark III can't handle the heat, and so just boom.
Yeah. but it's a good one. They say like each ship does behave differently in SEO crews, so yeah, it's definitely a technique. 'Cause I was explaining to someone recently about our sort of pre-launch in this expedition and doing the SEO race there. Because I said before, I'd never heard of anyone else doing it, so I thought, well, gonna have a go at it. We seem to have fun. We seem to have a good time doing it, and each ship seemed to be quite different as well. And I mean, I got a Cobra Mark V and just put it all fuel tanks. I didn't get close to running out of fuel, but I wasn't the fastest either, because it's that technique of being able to like drop at the waypoint, you know, where the station is, and then not do the loop of shame, or very minimal loop of shame if you do. So as I explained to someone, it's like, this is a viable race strategy. You because there is technique involved to this, and not just in the turnaround point, because you drop into real space and then get up again, but it's the actual managing of the boost, because they say apart from, you know, the loop of shame part, it's also a fuel management thing. I mean, because you can't just boost infinitely, because even a full fuel tank ship will eventually run out of fuel if you're not careful. So there is definitely technique involved. If there's technique involved, there's bound to be like it's a viable race, isn't it? And it's a viable event.
Absolutely. Anyway, there's a really funny video on YouTube. I cannot. I'm just reminded of it, but now I can't remember the name of it, so I don't know what to put in to search for. But this guy is getting a Type 10 Defender to go do whatever, and he has an SCO drive in it, and he also has Super Cruise navigation. And how he managed to manage it apparently is just, I'll just slam right into the planet.
Wow.
And it worked. I mean, he did do minor damage all throughout the ship, but you know, he got over to the back once he got over to the station and repaired it. It's like, oh well, okay.
I suppose the emergency stop is one way to handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's true.
But the funniest part was, he had actually looped in the sound from Star Wars, the original Star Wars, where they're going, "Stay on target, stay on target, stay on target," as he's careening into the planet.
Yeah, it is quite funny. But that does happen. And with the star release, yeah, you always have that. But I suppose if you hit the planet fast enough, it will just do the same thing. It'll do the emergency stop, so you can't really die during that, which is useful, yeah.
But it's just his whole editing style on that video. Let me see if I can find that thing. It's got to be some perturbation of just getting a Type 10. Let's see, Elite Dangerous. Type 10. Something or other. Let's see what we got here. There's the pilot's review of the Type 10. Oh, this is it, I believe. There we go. Yep, this is the one. I'll link it in. You guys can watch it. It's hilarious. We're on my crew lounge.
I'm just looking in the bar at the computer panel that the bar person has. It's kind of strange. I thought it was going to be with drinks on it, but it just seems to be like pictures from like orbits of planets, galactic maps, surface shots, scientific stuff. Really, you wouldn't expect a bar to have at all. So it's like, and also a picture of the cargo hold for some reason. Yeah,
okay.
Not obvious.
Video posted in the crew lounge.
Okay.
I wonder if the screen texture is probably just generic for all of that size of screen on the carriers.
I suspect it is. There's a lot of generic stuff going on. So, but it's interesting because you thought there'd be slight differences, but yeah, it's not a bad thing seeing these images of like different worlds and what have you, and cargo bay pictures and stuff.
Detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice though. I'm glad. Someone bent
If you can get back there.
Only with the camera,
can't
I
jump.
think. I don't think you can physically jump back there in game.
Yeah, you can't jump. That's a shame. I really hope in one of these quality of life and detail passes they do this year that the carrier gets a little love, even if it's minor stuff.
Yeah. There's lots of things they could do quality of life wise.
Well, they've
Oh
been
yeah.
pretty vague about the end of the year stuff, and after colonization, I think it's anybody's guess what they do next. So
Yeah, that's true.
well,
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna go hop in the T9 and mine up some fuel for Duran's character, and then maybe switch over to my alt. I haven't decided.
okay. I
Yeah.
think it's probably time that I round up the stream and say thank you to everyone who's been here tonight, whether it be in the chat or in game. And it's been a great evening. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you later.
Have a good one.
You too.